I will do an CHRD, Certified in Human Resources Director course. It gives people an idea how to use competencies, competency profiles, which profiles are out there. And so they are getting tools first, but the more important thing at the end of the day is that I let them work as an HR consultant, the internal HR consultant. So they learn how to talk to the management, how to create a program, not to come with a blank piece of paper to discussions with the management, make them a first idea and then discuss with them the idea. So, and they will be on camera. So the best feedback you get from yourself, right? And they will get the movies that I'm shooting with them when they work as an HR consultant and using the tools. So they are not just getting the tools, they are getting into practice, and they also then getting feedback on their soft skills. By the way, everybody who don't know me, I'm a mechanical engineer on my first life, right? Second, I'm a master in communication and change, my second love. In the meantime, I do hypnosystemic coaching, systemic approaches, and a lot of things are in my toolbox. But the most important is I can connect to people, I can feel like they feel, and I can see what they think. And I can give them feedback on this, because the best learning is if you're in the practice, if you are doing it and somebody's asking you, what is happening right now with you? What is this thing doing for you? And you do not need to give me an answer. Just observe yourself and give the answer to yourself, because that's more important than I have the answer.
We wanted to move away from the traditional markers of titles, degrees, and all of that. So we recast ourselves, rewrote the JDs, created a skills inventory, competencies and the proficiencies necessary to enable those. And our headcount reports, typically in HR, produces these MIS reports, right? So attrition, hypo retention, all kinds of numbers churn out. So we said, let's do the same imprint on vis-a-vis skills and competencies. What kind of skills do I have? What is the net attrition and addition of skills and competencies at different levels of proficiency? And how do I integrate that with the learning and development activity over a period of time? This yielded tremendous results, though it was a little complex in terms of administering the entire thing, but which we again utilized the platforms available which could actually churn out these numbers and enable and tell us what kind of skills are going out, what kind of skills are needed, what kind of skills are coming in, right? And it gave us a great focus. And then we use the social platforms to say, how do I analyze the skills that are there, to be able to bring them on board, right? So this has yielded very well. And also the appreciation for this method, and how it relates to the actual employee, has enhanced their ability to go and fetch those skills that are necessary to enhance their job content, job role, job satisfaction, and the meaning that they produce. I think simple example was in the manufacturing unit, where they were simply looking at what skills they should focus now down the line. If a different system of manufacturing is adopted, what are the things that they should learn and be prepared for, and how their progression would happen? So linking the career progression, linking the job satisfaction, linking abilities that we could enhance as an organization directly at the grassroots level, actually impacted very well. Though I must say that administratively, to bring all this together, you definitely need a larger content of technology and ability to assess those at different points of time, to be able to be fair and to be able to actually a complex system to be administered and make it simple, was needed. But it has yielded us very well and good results in that one department. Now we are scaling up to the others as well.
It has two directions, Srinand. One thing is you are not having only the competencies from the people or from the jobs that you have right now.
Yeah.
You also need to look into the future. Where do we want to go? What kind of skills do we need? What kind of people do we need to hire with what kind of skills, instead of, we call it competencies. If you call it competencies or skills, not important. But at the end of the day, you are not so much on a CV. You are more on what kind of filter, what kind of competencies are behind this CV, and what do we need now, and what do we need for the future, or what kind of job level need what kind of skills, and how do we build people up that they get the skills, and that we have also a promotion board where we can put people on. If somebody is going from the senior level, what would be the next senior that we bring up from our promotion board that is already ready to be promoted because he or she has the skills already. So there's a lot of advantages to that skill approach or competency approach, right?
True, true, true.
Yeah. Prashant.
Let me add here. From a practitioner's point of view, there are so many things happening in the world, and all the practices are becoming, advertised, awareness created, or articles, content being created, and sometimes the practitioner gets confused what to do, what not to do. And what also happens is the practitioner gets to hear several things from his or her colleagues and peers or seniors. It is important that the company or the leader or the owner or the sponsor of any program has conviction in any one of the approaches and takes that approach at a deeper level. So let me give 3 separate examples. In example 1, where a company used the competency framework, they created leadership competencies, they created functional competencies, and they created role-based competencies, and focus the entire work right from selection, training, development, succession planning on that model. On a large workforce of 10,000 plus people in a pharma company, this company has been able to achieve 5x to 10x more productivity per person in sales by sticking to one particular methodology and framework, and of course, building on that. So this is one example of a success. The other one I want to give is, there are various things that go into retaining people: purpose, alignment, development, engagement. And here is a company which says, one size fits all doesn't work. We will define our own engagement process and methodology. And it was a deep research using Six Sigma principles. And they did a full DMake project on this and created 2 engagement framework. One was 10 best practices for the frontline people, which must be used and measured for each business, and 5 best practices for all middle-level people. This was a kind of a, rule book that everyone had to follow. And it worked so well that this company year on year has been growing well, has the best margins, is amongst the top most respected player on any metric, financially doing very well, and their employee retention is, their attrition is 1/4 or 1/2 of the industry, depending upon who you compare with. And this is an example of a combination of an engagement practice and long-term career development in the company. The third example I want to give is, after the purpose, there is a meaningful work. And what this company adopted was meaningful work in the sense that top of the license. Each one of us is skilled or competent to work at several levels. What is the topmost level of my skill and capability? Am I working there? Am I utilizing that? To give you an example, let's take a nursing professional or a paramedical professional. In a hospital, they are posted right in the emergency area, in the outpatient department, in inpatient ward, in operation theater, and in ICU. It requires roughly the similar qualification. Okay, who is competent to be in ICU, who is competent to be in operation theater, and who is competent to be in an inpatient or an emergency? If that person sees that I'm working at top of my license, the retention, the productivity, both are very high. And this, I saw one company adopting this approach and doing exceptionally well in this. This has deep roots in job design.
Yeah, on the approach, let me say it like this: what we used and what I'm using at customers is we have a a career framework, right? Saying these are the different departments, these are the different job levels. And like you said, some jobs are similar, right? At least 80% of the skills you need are kind of the same skills than in the neighbor department. So we sometimes we just we was clear about the competencies / skills. We know what kind of skills are needed for that job. And then we had a more need on a neighbor department on that job level. So we did just add on transfer skills, right? And trained them on just the missing skills to the next job, and then we transfer them into a different department. So this is all something beside for hiring and everything else where you can use the competencies for, that you know exactly what you need. And the principal thing is very hardly connected to, do people believe into this? Do they think that's the right way? And because then they change their behavior. That's a psychology model, right? So if your beliefs and your value system changes, then you can change your behavior. And if you bring them a value system which they believe on and where they can see it is working, because this is how we learn, right? Who we are and what we believe on. The more we see it, the more we believe, the more we believe, the more we see it, right? Then you get kind of a hypnotic loop and you transfer people very easily because they see it from the neighbor, they see it from the top, and they're just following, right?
So I'm assuming that you all can see the screen now.
It is coming up. Yes, now we can see.
Yes.
Yeah. So these are the typical verticals in which we operate. And as you can see, while the competencies from one could be repurposed for the other, the level of tolerance for failure is very different across different verticals. Because if I were to just take defense as an example, right, I will just show what I wanted to possibly share here with the group. We have a situation where we look at defense solutions for the country. And there, let's say if there is a mechanical engineer working for an off-highway customer in the US, the level of tolerance that we have in terms of competencies and drop in competencies is relatively better compared to when we are actually doing a solution for, let's say, one of the defense equipment in India. So I will talk about just about one thing here, which is, let's say, the company where I'm currently operating out of. This is the company where we actually focus on providing defense solutions to the country's needs. So there are technically three areas in which we work. One is aerospace, the second is product engineering, and we also offer homeland security solutions. And the kind of services that we have to offer here are in this particular industry vertical. So the solutions that we offer are for the radar systems, sonar, electronic warfare, telemetry, airborne systems, naval systems, and product finder. So when I look at getting an engineer on board, I can move the person from doing some work in the automotive space to moving that person into energy space, and maybe move that person into one of the verticals within defense. The point that both Tanaya and Prashant made about, I would say, the talent piece of how at different, as Prashant said, about who can be actually deployed in, let's say, an ICU versus in general services. Likewise, we also grade our talent. When we have got somebody on board, we grade our talent and we ensure that people are moved across the industry verticals so that people get a very, very, I would say, across industry expertise. And that is why the longevity of people in the organization, especially when we enable cross movements, is extremely good. We are able to retain talent for almost around, on an average, about 5 to 8 years. And that's quite a lot. Because all that you see on the screen requires a lot of in-depth understanding and an in-depth competency development over a sustained period of time. So for us, our value proposition to our employees is that you come and join one organization, but by virtue of different industry domains that we operate in, you can be given exposure to different areas.
Thank you, Rishi. Let me move on to one more question that we put together yesterday. It was about psychometric tools. And I want to ask you if you have any recommendations. How are you using them and what do you prefer? And maybe this time we start with Srinand and then we're going down the row. Srinand, do you want to start to share your experience?
I have had a decade-long experience using these psychometric tools. One that stuck very well was Pymetric, if I could name them. They had a gamified version of 11 questions or 12 questions in 11 minutes, right? And then they would give you a completely different scale of strengths and where the alignment of a person's capabilities could be possibly made in the organization. And it worked really well where we matched the abilities to what is needed and then what could be scaled up from there and how good a match would that be, and all this at a place where the experience was wow, because it was just somebody playing a game as if on a mobile, right? And then you could get your strength profile depicted in a matter of minutes. And with this we could hire large. In one of the previous organizations that I used, we used to hire about close to 13,000 to 14,000 people a year, right? And this helped me scale up and also create a better experience for the candidates who appeared for those tests. One. Two, we have recently tried again, piloted a small project called Hire GPT. Right, what it does is it marries your job description to a resume that the person shares with you, and then invites the person on a chat session, and then stack ranks the entire answers of various candidates or prospects on a single stack, and then gives you a result. And that's then, of course, you take that out and then put it into a human intervention where you actually, a hiring manager talks to them, and it eliminates the qualifiers necessary for having an HR person there at the start of the conversations. So it directly goes to a hiring manager, and then the culture, the attitude, the behavioral parts of interviews are checked separately. But this has helped us scale and also maintain a certain standard of evaluation. And also we do a rejection analysis of sampling who are those rejects who the system said on the lower rank. So this has helped us understand the new flavors of technology. Of course, the technology is changing every 6 months now, so you need to be abreast with what is happening and what could yield value. At the same time, keep and maintain stability and sustainability, where the success has to be repeated. What has worked for you also continues to work. So I think these two tools is what I wanted to share, and it is wonderful to experiment with these. But Pymetric has been solid, and it has yielded immense results over the years for me.
Because we are doing tips and best practice, maybe later on you can share per email the tools also for all the others, so that we can put them into the video and the people know what they have to look for.
Sure.
Thank you, Srinand. Prashant.
I have used predictive index. It's very reliable. It conforms to the equal employment opportunity considerations and guidelines. I've also started using deeper signals, which is similar to Hogan, but much more cost effective, because Hogan is very expensive and suitable. That kind of expense you incur at a very senior level, but deeper signals gives you equal or better, if not better, at least the equal level of insights at a fraction of cost. I've used 16PF, Thomas profiling, but amongst that category, I have always found predictive index to be far simple to interpret. I have also seen personanalysis some of the places. It is about, what are you looking at? And then you identify which tool suits me better in terms of the design, reliability, purposes it serves, and of course, whether it comes with a tech interface and easy to use and easy to interpret.
Yeah. Thank you, Prashant. Also, share it per email later, please. Tanaya.
Okay, so I have used a whole host of psychometric tools and certified in them too. It depends on what is the budget that you have, right? So in the, in the entry level, it's very difficult to use a tool which costs you money. However, let me share with you an array of tools which I've used, which is firstly at this cheapest end, or if I may say the lowest budget is DISC, which has the human job analysis and the dominance, influence, steadiness, and compliance, right? Then you have the SHL, which has the OPQ and the OT. Then you had the PDI, which has been now acquired by Conferry, which has two pieces to it. One which is the short form, and one which is expensive, and it takes the you through the entire route of your personality, of how you are, right? Then you also have, of course, you have 16 PF and you have all of that. Then you have the Gallup Strength Finder, right? So which gives you, what is your strength as a professional. So, and it identifies what are you like as a leader, right? And then at the other end, you have Hogan, which most organizations are used, which is the 5-factor personality, which is the brighter side and the darker side and the normal personalities, right? Which is called the HDA. And then what happens is, these models are then used beyond to identify just not the hiring, but also in terms of succession planning, in terms of identifying the potential, in terms of coaching your talent, and a whole host of things. So these are some of the tools that are used in organizations today. Of course, you can get off-the-shelf tools as well, which are not very expensive.
Thank you, Tanaya. Rishi, you want to add?
Certainly, yes. So my experience has been, again, with a whole host of instruments. It depends on the purpose for which it is being used. So whether it is learning and development, whether it is the selection process. One tool which I have had, and of course, as Tanaya rightly said, budget is a huge, huge factor in deciding which tool you will eventually go with. So there are organizations which are willing to make that investment. And there are others which may not go down that path, and they would rather depend on having assessments being done by senior leadership. And I'm talking again about at a senior management level, maybe not at the entry level, because I have not seen many organizations use psychometric instruments at the entry level. Though much as we would like to use, I think there's an oversupply at the bottom of the pyramid. So there are only few basic tests which are carried out. But at the senior most levels, which I've seen, I've also been exposed to personality and preference inventory, both the ipsative and the normative version. Normative version obviously speaks to the job description and the requirements of the job. And at the end of it, it gives you a fantastic report. It also gives you a set of questions that can be used to evaluate the candidate. And that is something which I found to be quite useful, because when the person gave those particular or attempted those particular inventories, after the report came and after we got the set of questions that can be used to probe, I think our entire approach towards candidate assessment at a senior level became much more scientific in nature. Otherwise, people would, if I were to ask one of the senior leaders to interview a candidate, the person would most likely interview based on his or her own experience. But the moment the psychometric is introduced, there is a sense of commonality, and you can assess the person on common set of parameters. You can also decide where to go deep because you know what the job requires. So that tool really helped me quite a lot to make those kinds of assessments.
Thank you, Rishi. The thing that I can add, of course, DISC and some other named tools, I'm also certified and I'm using them. One thing that I figured out for myself is if I name it personality analysis, people kind of getting a little bit resistant, and they think they're now tested on it, right? So I tried, especially internally, if we are making a test inside of a company and people are already employed, I like to call the reflector big five I'm using, because reflector big five is for me kind of a potential analyzer, because it's not that it's not telling you you are blue, black, or white, or whatever the color is. You're not putting into a corner. They say this is easy for you, and this costs you a lot of energy, which I really like about the tool, because then I can help the people to get in the job where they are not spending a lot of energy to do the stuff, and they can work a little bit more because the energy lasts longer, right? If I give them jobs where they really have to spend all their energy on simple tasks normally, but it's not their home turf and it's not what they want, they get less done. I have two more little questions. One thing is, what kind of tools are you using in talent acquisition?
We do use, at least at the mid-management level, we use PAPI, the normative version of that. And at the senior level, we are currently not using any tool. But as I said, the roles that are actually there at the senior most level are far and few in between. And that goes through the rigor of a lot of interviews by the senior leadership and also by some of the board members. So I think if we are hiring somebody for our defense vertical, we would certainly want that person to interview not from the defense side. Also, one of our board members who happens to be the ex-chairman of DRDO. So DRDO is actually the Defense Research and Development Organization, and the ex-chairman, Mr. S. Christopher, is an independent director on our board. So if we are hiring somebody for a defense project at a very senior level, at a vice president level, we certainly want that person to go through. But to answer your question on psychometric, we don't do it right now.
So, to be very honest, these days a lot of AI tools are available in the market. I can't say the pharma industry as such is ahead of the curve. It isn't. So, but what we have used is some of the AI tools to reflect, which actually looks at how you speak, your verbiage, and then gives you an answer. And of course, we have used Thomas quite often to assess the kind of talent that we have. But like I said, I think we're still relying on the verbal skills. We are using the technical skills, because for us, we need to be technically compliant.
I have predominantly used predictive index because I see this as a simple to administer. The reports are fairly objective, measurable, and well described. So I have found a lot of merit in this, though I have used many for development purposes. But this is one that I have liked most because it's user-friendly, it's objective, and it explains in a very simple terms. The deeper signals I'm getting more and more fascinated with, especially at mid and senior levels.
Rishi.
So at this point of time, we are developing something in-house because we have our group CTO who's working towards it. And that should be available to us at the start of next year. So there are a set of core engineers along with the CTO who are at it. This system will be completely homegrown. While our CTO was very clear that there should be a roadmap for all of us to, including each and every employee in the support function, to be trained on AI tools. But when we also sat down with him and gave him our functional requirements, he said that we have this capability in-house. We don't have to go external, and we will develop that for your requirement or for your usage in-house. So I think I'm really looking forward to it sometime next year.
So we had, let me give you a funny example. So we had Higher View, which we used in Accenture, right? And what happens is this tool actually looks at what you are saying, and it kind of tries to analyze what is happening. So we found that one particular candidate, who did extremely well, because you have to then, when you come on board, you have to take examination. He did very well, but he was just not able to get through. So we decided to investigate, and I used to lead employee relations. And when we investigated, we found the person was miming, and there was somebody sitting behind it, actually telling the answers.
Mhm.
So, it's also about how you use the tool, because garbage in is also garbage out. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's absolutely true.